If you're someone who's always on the lookout for ways to eat healthier, manage your weight, or simply feel more satisfied after meals, then you're going to want to pay close attention to this fascinating food science trick. Imagine being able to eat less, feel full, and not have to follow a strict diet or count every calorie. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, what if I told you that the answer might be as simple as changing the texture of the foods you eat? That's right. No complicated meal plans, no expensive supplements, just a small tweak to how your food feels in your mouth. Intrigued? Let's dive into the science behind this surprisingly effective strategy. But before we get into the details, think about your own eating habits for a moment. Have you ever noticed that some meals leave you feeling satisfied for hours, while others seem to leave you hungry again soon after? It turns out the answer might not just be what you're eating, but how you're eating it, and more specifically, the texture of the food itself. This is a subtle but powerful factor that most of us overlook, but as you'll see, it can make a world of difference in how much you eat and how full you feel. So here's the scoop. Recently, a team of innovative researchers in the Netherlands set out to answer a question that might seem simple, but could have big implications for how we approach eating and nutrition. They wanted to know, can the texture of our food, whether it's soft, chewy, or crunchy, actually influence how much we eat? And more importantly, could this be a practical way to help people eat less without feeling deprived? The researchers designed a study that would put this idea to the test, using a variety of foods and carefully observing how people responded to different textures. But what makes this study stand out is how it challenges some of our most basic assumptions about eating. For years, we've been told to focus on portion sizes, calorie counts, and even the timing of our meals. But what if the secret to feeling full and satisfied lies in something as simple as the crunch of a carrot or the chewiness of a whole grain? The Dutch researchers wanted to dig deeper and see if this overlooked aspect of eating could be the missing piece in the puzzle of healthy weight management. To get to the bottom of this, the scientists set up an experiment featuring a wide range of foods. Picture a table loaded with options. There were silky smooth soups, tender cooked vegetables, hearty chewy greens, and of course, a tempting array of crunchy snacks like nuts, seeds, and crisp raw veggies. The idea was to see how people's eating habits changed when they were given foods that required different amounts of chewing and effort to eat. Would people naturally eat less when faced with foods that took longer to chew? Or would texture make no difference at all? The researchers paid close attention to every detail, making sure that the foods were similar in flavor and nutritional content, so that the only real difference was the texture. This way, they could be sure that any changes in how much people ate were due to the texture itself, not because one food tasted better than another. It's a clever approach that allowed them to isolate the true impact of texture on our eating behavior. The results were pretty eye-opening. It turned out that people who ate foods that required more chewing, think crunchy carrots, chewy whole grains, or nuts, ended up eating significantly less overall compared to those who ate softer, easier to swallow foods like creamy soups or mashed potatoes. The act of chewing, it seems, plays a much bigger role in our sense of fullness than most of us realize. When you have to chew more, you naturally slow down, giving your body and brain more time to register that you're eating, and eventually, that you're full. What's even more interesting is that participants didn't report feeling any less satisfied after eating the chewier, crunchier foods. In fact, many said they felt just as full, or even more so, than when they ate the softer foods. This suggests that it's not just about the amount of food you eat, but the experience of eating itself. The process of chewing and savoring your food can actually enhance your sense of satisfaction, making it easier to stop eating when you've had enough. But why does this happen? The answer lies in the way our bodies communicate hunger and fullness. When you eat quickly, especially foods that are soft and easy to swallow, your stomach doesn't have enough time to send the "I'm full" signal to your brain before you've already eaten more than you need. On the other hand, when you eat foods that are crunchy or chewy, you're forced to slow down. This extra time allows your digestive system to catch up, and your brain gets the message that you're satisfied before you've overeaten. It's a simple but powerful way to help prevent mindless snacking and second helpings. There's also a psychological component at play. The act of chewing and working through a meal with more texture can make you feel like you've accomplished something. This is a fascinating example of how our bodies and minds work to regulate But if you've ever snacked on something like raw carrots, celery sticks, or a handful of almonds, you might have noticed that you naturally eat more slowly. That's because crunchy and chewy foods require more effort to break down, and that extra chewing time gives your body a chance to recognize when you've had enough. In fact, some studies suggest that people who eat more slowly tend to consume fewer calories overall, simply because they're more in tune with their body's hunger signals. It's not just about snacks either. Even at meal times, the texture of your main dishes can have a big impact. For example, a stir-fry loaded with crisp vegetables and chewy tofu will likely leave you feeling fuller than a plate of soft pasta or a creamy casserole. The more you have to chew, the more time your body has to process what you're eating, and the easier it is to stop before you're overly full. So how can you use this knowledge to your advantage? It's actually pretty easy to put into practice. One of the simplest ways is to add more texture to your meals. For example, if you're making a salad, toss in some nuts, seeds, or chunky vegetables like bell peppers and cucumbers. Not only do these ingredients add a satisfying crunch, but they also make your meal more filling. The same goes for grain bowls, stir-fries, and even soups. Try adding roasted chickpeas, toasted seeds, or whole grains to boost the chew factor. You'll find that you feel fuller, faster, and you might even end up eating less without even trying. Another great tip is to experiment with different cooking methods. Roasting, grilling, or lightly steaming vegetables can help preserve their natural crunch, while overcooking can make them mushy and less satisfying. Try leaving some ingredients raw or only partially cooked to keep that texture intact. You can also swap out soft sandwich bread for a hearty whole grain version, or add sliced apples or pears to your salads for an extra layer of crunch. And don't forget about snacks and breakfast foods. If you're a fan of smoothies, consider tossing in some granola, chia seeds, or even a handful of nuts before blending, or sprinkle them on top for an extra layer of texture. The same goes for yogurt bowls. Add some crunchy toppings like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, or toasted granola flakes. These small changes can make a big difference in how satisfied you feel after eating, and they can help you avoid the temptation to reach for more food later on. Breakfast is a great opportunity to play with texture. Instead of just having plain oatmeal, try stirring in some chopped nuts, dried fruit, or even a spoonful of nut butter for added chewiness. If you like toast, with sliced radishes, cucumbers, or even a sprinkle of seeds for a satisfying. These tweaks don't just make your meals more interesting, they also help you stay full and energized throughout the morning. The beauty of this approach is that it's not about restriction or deprivation. You're not cutting out your favorite foods or forcing yourself to eat less. You're simply making your meals more interesting and satisfying by playing with texture. Plus, adding crunchy or chewy ingredients often means you're also boosting the nutritional value of your meals, since nuts, seeds, and raw veggies are packed with fiber, healthy fats, and essential vitamins and minerals. It's a win-win for your taste buds and your health. And here's another bonus. Eating foods with more texture can actually make your meals more enjoyable. There's something deeply satisfying about the crunch of a fresh vegetable or the chewiness of a whole grain. It engages your senses and makes eating a more mindful, pleasurable experience. When you look forward to your meals, you're less likely to overeat out of boredom or habit. You might have already noticed this effect in your own life. Have you ever felt more satisfied after eating a big, crunchy salad compared to a bowl of creamy soup? That's not just your imagination, it's your body responding to the extra chewing and the slower pace of eating. The next time you're planning a meal, try swapping out some of the softer components for something with a bit more bite. You might be surprised at how much less you need to eat to feel full and content. And don't be afraid to get creative. Try mixing different textures in the same meal. Combine creamy, crunchy, and chewy elements for a truly satisfying experience. For example, top a smooth soup with roasted chickpeas or crispy croutons, or add a handful of seeds to a creamy yogurt bowl. The possibilities are endless, and you'll likely discover new favorite combinations along the way. So, what do you think? Are you willing to give this food texture trick a try? Let me know in the comments if you've ever noticed a difference in how full you feel after eating crunchy versus soft foods, or if you have any favorite ways to add texture to your meals. And if you found this tip helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more science-backed food hacks and nutrition insights. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with more ways to make healthy